Mr. Gregg Bissonette. And Mr. Victor Wooten.
Before you leave, Brad, Vic and I would just like to say how grateful we are to be here, and we want to thank you and Renee and all these students. What an incredible ensemble. We're just blown away. How about a hand for these guys? Man, oh man, oh man.
It really is an honor to be here, and we didn't know if we'd get a chance to say this after we start playing. It's hard to get us to stop once we start. But I think it was a year ago or so, Greg, you were here, and then Greg came on tour, and we were touring together, and he brought me a recording of you playing, a song that I wrote, and it just blew me away. I had never heard that song that way. I sent it to Bela Flag. He loved it. And so I'm just honored to get to be here with you all this year. And Greg and I were just back there saying, we have never heard a high school or middle school or any percussion ensemble that's been this good. You all should be very, very proud of these students.
Come on, they don't want to hear me. They want to hear you guys. Man, what an incredible performance so far tonight. You guys loving what you're hearing so far? Yeah, me too. So, backstage, I got to introduce myself to Mr. Bissonette. Unfortunately, Mr. Wooten, I didn't get to catch you just yet, but I want to say I knew who you are when they said the name to me. Although I'm a percussionist by trade, I thought, man, I know that name, and it took me back all the way to when I was in college. I had Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. UFO Tofu was the album. And man, my face about melted. Who knew that a banjo and a bass could rock this world like they did? Incredible stuff. So it's an honor for me to be able to see you live in person as well, too. So, yeah. So that last hit that we heard, obviously, was Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk. And next we'd like to bring the high school kids who are out here waiting to perform for you. They call it a classic, but I don't consider it a classic. I thought classic rock was in the 60s. But this classic is called Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. Enjoy. All right, just a real quick change through here on this transition. So, like I said, they call that classic music nowadays. That's the stuff I grew up with. Does that make me a classic too, I guess, right? I don't know. I'll take it. So, again, that was Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Wooten. Victor Wooten, who's over here on the bass shredding it like crazy, is a founding member of the legendary bluegrass jazz fusion group called Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. I mentioned that album earlier, that I actually had that album when I was in college, and I loved it. It truly opened my eyes to what music could be. So the next song that we're going to perform is a song from Bella Fleck. I would imagine Mr. Wooten has some credit on this song as well here. So without further ado, this is Big Country by Bella Fleck. So I hope y'all enjoy it. Man, that was incredible. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Wow. I don't know if y'all can see what his feet were doing, but it was nuts from backstage to watch that. It just looked like a blur the whole way through. That song there, that was called Hips Don't Lie by Shakira. Hope y'all didn't hurt yourselves a little bit there. So Gregg toured with the legendary band Toto, which we're all familiar with, for a short time in the 90s. And this next song is a song by Toto, and it's called Stop Lovin' You.
It's very similar in tempo, but it's 2 beats faster. See if you notice. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wow, pretty incredible, huh? So, hey, that was Stop Loving You by Toto. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually feature two of our students. And they're going to be working with Victor Wooten on a composition that he created entitled Vix Number 9, or just Vix 9, actually. These two kids, I actually got to honor them at the last school board meeting. The two kids that are going to come up and perform with Mr. Wooten are incredible. Let me read to you just a little bit about them real quick. The two guys are Nick Arnold and Ryan Lopez, and both of them were named to the TMEA All-State Band this year. Let me say that again. Both of them were honored and became members of the TMEA All-State Band. They competed at the highest level. They competed at the 6A level, and that's out of 1,000 school districts in our great state of Texas. These kids are the best. So what a great honor it was to be able to honor them. So Nick, I think you're a sophomore, is that correct? Okay, so Nick was rated as the third highest placing sophomore in the entire state of Texas. That's something right there. Let's not forget about Ryan Lopez, though, because Ryan was the 6A first chair all-state percussionist also. Incredible work, guys. I know that y'all have practiced and trained really hard to be the best percussionists that you guys could, and it's obvious that it's paid off for you. These honors here, the TMEA, is the biggest, the highest of all awards that any high school student can receive. So the fact that we have two of them here on our campus is nothing short of amazing. And we can attribute that, actually, to the great work that is done here by our percussion teachers. So one more time before they get going, let's give it up for all these guys. Take it away, guys. Vix 9.
One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Move this marimba. Oh, hi. While we take a second to move the marimba off stage, I'm going to introduce some people. So, on trombone, all the way in the back, Mr. Jesse Nolan. Next to Jesse, on trumpet, my good friend, Mr. Rick Thomas. Next to Rick, my brother Chuck. I'm sorry. Next to Chuck, John Rickman from Bernie. Making the long journey over from TLU, Dr. Scott McDonald. And all the way from New Braunfels High School, David Eckert. Playing steel drum with us on a lot of tunes. You heard him on Big Country, and you're going to hear him again in a couple of minutes. Mr. Stephen Partita. On guitar, Mr. Bob Charles. On keyboards and doing all of our horn arrangements, Mr. Dave Eskridge. Slapping the tall bongos here, Mr. Rene Gonzalez, my co-worker. On drums, Mr. Gregg Bissonette. And on bass, Mr. Victor Wooten.
All right. I hope you all came prepared to sing. There's a lot of words in this song, and the words are written by John Lennon, and the music is pretty much the whole band. Tell us if you could pick out this song just by the drum beat alone. This is a percussion ensemble festival. What song is this just by the drum beat alone? Ready? Wipeout. No, that's... Wipeout. No. Come Together. Very good. Very good. You ready for a little Victor Wooten on Come Together? Everybody, here we go. Here come on flat top, he come grooving up slowly. He got juju eyeball, he walk holy roller. He got hair down to his knees. Got to be a joker, he just do what he please. Second verse, everyone. He wear no shoe shine. He got toe jam football. He got monkey feet. come grooving up slowly. He got juju eyeball. He won holy roller. He got hair down to his knees. Everybody got to be a joker. He just do what he please. Together right now over me. One more time, everybody, everybody. Together right now over me. We didn't know we were going to do that until we were sitting backstage, and we wrote that song a little bit earlier. Okay. So here's a little song by a trio from England. Who can guess a great band? Well, the drummer's American, but who's a trio? The lead singer, bass player. There's a hint. No, they're Canada, but close. The Police, that's right, the Los Capos. The Police. Here's a little number by the Police. You were close with Rush, though, very close. I have a question. In England, would ZZ Top be ZZ Top? I don't know. Maybe. Everybody ready?
Incredible, wasn't it? I love that tune. That was a great rendition of it. Yeah. So obviously that was from Sting. That was his big old hit, If I Ever Lose My Faith in You. And next we're going to actually go into the Bella Fleck catalog, and we're going to play some stuff from the album called New South Africa. Ready? What kind of transition do we have here? Okay, so there's the mouse, the giraffe, and the elephant, and they walk into a boba tea place, right? Oh, all right, they're ready. Bye.
Bela Fleck and the Flecktones were invited to South Africa not long after they abolished apartheid. And we actually got a chance to be a part of a record called A Place of Hope, which was a combination of U.S. musicians, American musicians, and South African musicians. So it's one of the first times we actually got, this got to happen. And we were so inspired, and Bela was so inspired because Bela knew that his instrument, the banjo, came from Africa. So he went back to Africa and researched and actually made a movie called Throw Down Your Heart, which you should check out. He put that together. But this song was in celebration. It's a song that Bela wrote in celebration of the new South Africa. And so he named it New South Africa.
tones. Victor Wooten has also released a few solo albums of his own as well. I know that Brad and Renee found a song that really intrigued them sometime last year, they told me, and that was kind of an impetus to get this ball rolling even a year ago. So that song that they're going to do right now is a Victor Wooten song. I would suggest if you got any loose teeth in your head, you might take them out and put in your pocket so they don't fall on the floor, because the name of this tune is called Zenergy by Victor Wooten. Y'all enjoy. Okay, so we still got a quick minute? All right, so... Okay, they look like they're ready. Bye. That was awesome. Thanks so much, Mr. Wooten, for sharing that song with us. I love that. That was fantastic. So when Brad Renee, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Gonzalez, as we know them, when they put these concerts together, actually, I think that Brad told me that literally, well, while I'm thinking about it, are your wives here tonight, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Gonzalez? Yeah, okay. We need to, let me just tell you about these two guys first off. Literally, the night of the last night of Percussion, they were backstage and they said, hey, next year, why don't we? And they started this process all over again. This has been going on for 1 year. This is the culmination of a very long year of trying to pull things together, find all these professional musicians to come join us arrange the pieces. I mean, they don't just pull a sheet music out and start playing it. These guys have to sit down and arrange it so that it accompanies or includes everybody up here on the stage. That being said, I know Miss Gonzalez and I know Miss Arnold. You ladies must be tired of hearing about all this. But thank y'all so much for sharing your husbands with us. I see Miss Arnold over here. I don't see Miss Gonzalez, but I know you're out there somewhere. And maybe, here, I'll do this for you ladies. Hey, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Gonzalez, will y'all not talk about this for one day? Can you promise us that? All right, so maybe tonight, ladies, that'll be your quiet night. So when Brad and Ray put these concerts together, what they do is they try to find music that the guest artists write or that they have an attachment to. They either wrote it or they toured with the artist that they're playing with. So other times they just find tunes that they like, and hopefully the artists, the professionals that come, will like them as well. So they chose this song, a couple of songs here, which I know you guys are really going to enjoy. They're going to be playing these two tunes. They're going to be playing Dave Matthews Band, Trippin' Billies, and they're also going to fire off Paul Simon, You Can Call Me Al, a great classic. So without further ado, here you go.
Thank
right, thanks, guys. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We truly hope that you've enjoyed the show. I know that I have, and want to let you know that we're not done. So we've got 3 tunes to go, but this is it for me. Thank you for letting me be a part of this evening. Incredible. That's all I can say. I love tonight. It was incredible. Thank y'all so much. So, a little housekeeping stuff that we need to get with. After the performance, both Greg and Victor will have a meet and greet out in the lobby. But we're going to need a few minutes to kind of get things off the stage. So give them a few minutes to catch their breath after Stomping Grounds, and they'll be out to sign autographs and take pictures and do that kind of stuff. Also, please, parents, friends, whatever, don't come up to the stage when the performance is over. The performers need all the space back here. It's really quite tight, and we need to clear the equipment out and get it back into the band hall before anybody can get out of here. Anybody, I mean your kids. So moms, dads, grandmas, any dogs, cats that might have come along, y'all just sit tight, give them a few minutes so they can make a couple of trips back and forth, probably about 15 minutes tops or so to get the job done. And last but not least, as your board representative, I want to remind you, please go vote. Whatever that looks like, please go vote. Our closest voting location is next to Churchill Middle School. It's the Goodwin Annex right there, the old Quonset hut-looking buildings. And that's the closest for us. If you need more information, please go on to comalisd.org and search that information out. I'll be out in the lobby as well if anybody has questions or just wants to chit-chat for a minute. So again, I hope you guys had a great time tonight. And that's the final of our show, our last 3 tunes. Enjoy. Thanks again for coming out. We'll see y'all soon.
Thank you so much for coming out. I finally get to say, welcome to our stage, Mr. Gregg Bissonette and Mr. Victor Wooten.
Before you leave, Brad, Vic and I would just like to say how grateful we are to be here, and we want to thank you and Renee and all these students. What an incredible ensemble. We're just blown away. How about a hand for these guys? Man, oh man.